Yogi Berra once said, baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. The Pitcher's Dad podcast, hosted by Joe Lorenzini, has the mental half covered. His kids take care of the rest. And now, without further ado,
All right, there we go. Red Saunders. Welcome to the Pitcher's Dad.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically we thought of a new name, right? Catcher converted to the Pitcher's Dad podcast.
Right. Yeah, there's probably a handful of folks locally that would fall into that category. So, I'm proud to be in the Pitcher Dad group now.
That's right. That's right. So Shane is second year at Folsom Lake and was predominantly catcher for all that time. And then was it the end of last year? When did that happen?
Yeah, kind of a funny story there. But yeah, he's been behind the dish for several years, and Folsom Lake was in the playoffs, kind of a deep run, and had some pitchers kind of come up a little bit lame toward the end of the season. And Shane got tapped at practice to throw a bullpen. Coach asked him if he wanted to, and he said, "Yeah, absolutely."
The guy could throw the ball.
He a little bit, yeah, and I think he surprised himself.
That's right.
The funny story about it is when it was still at practice, so all of his teammates were still there and everything, and
Yeah.
so they kind of saw what was going on. Him making his way over to the bullpen, and
They're thinking, is he going to go catch a bullpen or what? Like, because he was playing a little bit of first base too, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay,
And it was one of those things. Hey, however I can try to get in the lineup, So
100%.
It was a fluke kind of thing, and so he said the funny story was, the guys were giving him the business about, oh, this isn't going to be very good.
Yeah. Razzing him and whatnot.
Yeah. And the first pitch, apparently, he threw over the catcher's head. It hit the side of the dugout, which is like cinder block, and ricocheted almost all the way back to the mound. And everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing?"
Little wild thing.
Yeah. And so it was pretty free and easy. First couple of fastballs were 88 and 89, and next thing you know, it was 90. Kind of thing. And so real short box, maybe like 20, 25 pitches kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, when we were talking about doing this episode, I was trying to think of, okay, how did Fred and I meet? And then I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but Joey comes home one day because he's just getting back on the baseball field. And I can't remember if I don't think it had to do with The Rock as much as it had to do with work stuff, maybe, right? He said, hey, something about, is your dad doing real estate now? And I do loans. And I'm like, wait, who? And he's like, Fred. I'm like, oh, nice, dude. I didn't know that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw Joey at Rockland High School, and he was really close to getting back.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen him in a while, and obviously he'd sprouted up. I mean, at that point, he was probably better than 6'3", 6'4", grown man kind of thing. And he's always so personable. It's easy to get in a conversation with him.
That's cool.
It's kind of flowed. And so, I asked him, say, hey, what's your dad's doing real estate these days? And so shortly after that, that's when I think I reached out to you and go, hey, man, if you ever, you need another arrow in the quiver, so to speak, let me know.
Yeah, and a great friendship was formed. Because I consider you more of a friend than a business partner, but we've done tons of business together because I think you're great at what you do.
Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, 100%. The evolution of that has been amazing. Obviously, getting to know you and Angel and breaking bread here and there and spending a little time away from work, just hanging out. So that part's been an amazing evolution. And so I really do appreciate that. I've always been a guy that kind of values, those relationships and friendships to a great degree. So whenever you get to carve out a new one, man, it's important. So thank you.
Yeah, I think as we get older, just in age, as a parent, as our kids get older, we start to value people for different reasons, Not that like, boy, I don't want to sound shallow, but like, when you're friends with your teammates' parents and stuff like that, I think something genuine about you and I that was cool about you that stuck out to me was like The Rock and what you were trying to do. And I was thinking, gosh, it's such a good baseline or a model. And you used to use this phrase when you first started talking about, like, play nice in the sandbox with these other big organizations, the Alphas and the NorCals and stuff like that. Because you understood, like, hey, there's another level of travel ball for local guys that don't need to go nationally.
Right.
And that rung so true to me because I realized that, yeah, hey, my son could play nationally, but he still needed something to do home.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of guys like that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because we discussed many times that the baseball in South Placer, Rockland specifically, is electric. There's a lot of
Unknown
really,
caller.
really good baseball players.
Oh, look at that.
I was going to say, is that me?
Yeah,
I thought I turned mine
that's
off.
me. No, yeah. Hey, there's an unknown caller who wants to talk to you about The Rock. I'm just kidding.
Right. Oh, we're getting live calls in.
Yeah,
That's the next level, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, calling in now.
Yeah. Push the button.
but
Hey,
so-
Jamie, can you pipe that in?
Yeah. So then you're saying a lot of talent in Placer.
Yeah. And so the initial part of The Rock, just segueing into that, was, man, if we could aggregate that talent together and kind of pull on the same side of the rope, that we could probably compete just about anywhere. And so that was really the original mission. And then the evolution of the program, which is, wow, there's a lot of kids that are really good players, but maybe, aren't at the elite level where they're getting these invites to go across the country and and go to these exclusive events. And we've been very fortunate, even those kids, Joey included, and there's a lot of names we could throw out that have found value in competing, the term, watering the local lawn, so to speak, and making it a priority to be part of what we're doing in addition to. So those things didn't have to be exclusive, so to speak, for a lot of kids. And
and I think what you're trying to say is, like, hey, there was room for the kids who needed to go do elite stuff and still come back and play locally and draw in the local talent.
Yeah, and that's an evolution too. So again, we've been very fortunate. The buy-in, I think I just put a post up, about a week and a half ago.
I saw that with all the guys that have made it. I was like, hey man, Joey threw on The Rock. He definitely did, but
yeah, and that's a
I can understand why you leave him off, because you're like, hey, it was only one time and stuff like that, and
you don't want to,
be a poser, like, hey, dude,
absolutely
taking credit, but
absolutely, I try to be aware of that, self-aware and program aware that yes, we're and Joey, if you're listening out there, that was actually his very first outing
of all
coming back, and so we were extremely proud to have him in our uniform in that regard. After,
and that was Jones going down to Arizona, and
Arizona
he got to
Fall
go
Classic,
visit, U of A, and he got the call from ASU, and that's that funny story about I don't like Adidas and stuff like that, but just that was The Rock, and that was Coach Jones, who obviously I really, really appreciate and owe a lot of my son's journey, success through high school and stuff like that to him, because he's just big picture, man.
Yeah, that's you can't understate the value of Coach Jones here locally, landing at Rockland High and with The Rock. We could have an episode just about all the things that he brings to the table.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's a people, and he tried to downplay it when he was on. Like, oh, I don't think people. And I'm saying, dude, you're good.
I think there was a little bit of unknown
mm-hmm.
when he first came on board, and even some folks that maybe had sort of a negative connotation about The Rock. Eventually, those folks became fans as well because of Matt Jones and the way that he approaches the game of baseball. I mean, I feel like every time I have a chat with him, I learn something new.
I agree.
I feel, after being a very close friend of his for the last 3 years, that legitimately I'm a better man as a result of the conversations. And so I'm super blessed. I know our kids love playing for him. He goes about his business the right way, and we're all very fortunate to have him in our backyard for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just, not that so many coaches, right, maybe coached at a high level or whatever. And when he was telling his story about how he played, and then when he went to coach and how he kind of came up through the ranks, it's like me, I'll just speak for myself. Like, I'm just a dad coaching. I've learned all this stuff because my kid was good or whatever.
Right.
But I didn't learn because I was good or I coached excellent players or I recruited Brandon Crawford or those kind of things are, he's above my pay grade. Right. And so I think when you have someone that's had that experience, for sure. I mean, you say the negative connotation, the rock and stuff like that. It's like people want to, there's always gonna be someone that's a naysayer,
right.
Because you show me an organization, I'll show you someone that, they suck, or
right.
that was the worst thing I ever did,
right.
or hey, this or whatever, because parents ruin this. I mean, it's what it is. What it is. I have been a ruiner of things. You know what I mean? When I can sit back and reflect on events that when Joey didn't play, or I think with Savannah, I kind of learned from Joey, but I'm sure maybe I did that with Savannah too. But like, we're taking our ball and going home. It's very easy to have lived that, then have success, and then say, "Oh, the world's all great and these people are great." So that's not lost on me. But I think what The Rock offers, and with Jones, is pretty spectacular, especially with this new landscape of recruiting and all this
right.
stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too, because the Joey being a 2025 grad, that group of players here in the town of Rockland, both Whitney and Rockland High School, was really a lot of elite players.
Yeah.
They came up in a time when eighth graders are committing to LSU. Right. And so that element of, man, early commit and everybody pushing for that. And then you have a couple of kids that are at the tip of the sword on that. And then we're always trying to keep up with, and the sense of urgency, and we're missing the boat kind of thing. It created a lot of, I think, anxiety for a lot of young players and families during that time frame. And now here the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction with all the rule changes and things of that nature, which you've discussed on the show before. And so as a program, as The Rock, we're always trying to balance the merit of events parents spend, grade class, now the rule changes. And so just this last year, we changed our schedule pretty substantially because some of the events that are out of state are exciting and fun experientially, but really what you want is a captive audience of coaches, to have eyes on your guys, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And so that's always been a big thing. And so when we go back to the Fall Classic with Joey and Cash and
Gordon Petty was
Gordon
there.
Petty and all these guys, that Kyler Renzo. I mean, we were loaded that group and just went in and played really, really well. And there were dozens and dozens of coaches at our games. When we went back to the Fall Classic a couple of years ago with a sophomore group that was very, very good. 27s right now that are very good players, and the names of those kids as well. And we finished 8th out of 64 teams in that event, and there was nobody. And so you're always evaluating, okay, what's going on and that kind of thing. And so with that all being said, a lot of that going back to Coach Jones, we talk all the time and really try to find the right size of all of that. And now we've got our 2029 group that we've just kind of reached out to, and a lot of excitement around the players that are in that grade class, and what's the right event schedule for some of those kids on the national team and that kind of thing. And so we're working on those things as we speak, and a lot of that has to do with Coach Jones and his connections and things of that nature that have really helped take the program to a level that that is still based in home, because we have kids that are developmental, if you will, that are just trying to improve. And so we have a great spot for those kids that really want to play locally. And when you add in some of the training relationships we have and our new indoor facility, we feel like just a well-rounded program for kids in our community that want to be a part of what we're doing, that there's mechanisms and folks in place that care to help move the needle on.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I liked about, let's just say, The Rock, right? Because it was like, fundamentally, it was like, hey, a local Placer based. There's a Sacramento based, there's a NorCal based, and I don't mean Rob Bruno NorCal, but just mean like Northern California, right? And the greater, the league and the things that Farb's done, where it's, hey, Fresno to Redding, and what I've seen, I guess, with Joey having finished up fall is like, and this is not about Joey per se as much as it is just like an eye opener. Like, we all have that dream of wanting to go to big time, and or we have that dream for our kids, and our kids should have that dream for themselves. There's some very big outliers, or these 1%ers or whatever.
Right.
And, if I'm a parent, and I think I've tried to, that's what this whole podcast is about, right? Like shed light on, hey man, these are the things we learned, right? And these are the things that I've experienced. And so when he shows up to summer school, and at 6'5" and $195, he's like right in the middle of 7 guys. And 2 of them are Gatorade Player of the Years. One of them's Gatorade Player of the Year. Both, like unbelievable,
right.
Unbelievable talent. Like now what's your separator? Because here your size was stand out. You go to the grocery store, whatever. Now in the locker room, you're just one of the guys. So how do you separate that? So what I mean to say is that with parents always striving, and I fall victim to that too, striving for the next best thing. It really is important. I mean, if you do have that 1%er, you can still play locally. You do have to get out onto, to be seen. You're going to go. I guess what I'm trying to say is this: if you're that good, you'll go to area codes, and then at area codes, you'll be seen by everybody. You know what I mean? If you're like that 1% guy.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is that even the 1%, the group of kids that maybe you wouldn't consider that, the Sierra Foothill League that our kids play in,
it's
is arguably the best conference, high school conference, certainly in the Sacramento area. I mean, there's some good schools in there, but from top to bottom, there's just a lot of talent. It's a gauntlet to get through. And so if you perform in that conference, there's a perfect example is Dylan Nuz, right?
Yeah, right.
And even Corden Petty to a degree, right?
Yeah.
They were really unknown commodities for a long time.
Because they always stayed local.
They stayed local. They weren't heavily, being
I get it.
drawn by bigger national programs. Maybe they weren't, physically developed. And then things happen. They perform extremely well in the SFL. They perform very well at the Boris Classic. And next thing you know, lightning strikes and it's area code invites. And then it's short. So even if you weren't on the circuit of national identifier baseball at 14 and 15 years old, I'm here to tell you that playing for the Rock and playing for your high school, we talk about this with kids all the time, it's okay if it's a slow burn. Sometimes it's not the expressway, it's the scenic route, if you will, right? And so for guys like that, I remember when we went to the Fall Classic, getting back to Corden, I was talking with his dad, come play for us. We got a great schedule. And I told him, I feel like this is going to be a coming out party.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it turned out to be. And so, he's made his own way and all those kind of things. Dylan, and there's a number of other players, Kai and Colby and Cash. Cash did some stuff sparingly early on with, Alpha, and then, made a decision to be with us. And
both of those kids, older brothers, played at a high level. Both dads understood we don't need to do this per se.
Right.
And they kind of got it.
And you're touching on a point where, even I have 13 and 14-year-olds in our program right now, 7th and 8th graders, and I talk to parents all the time about these things that we're discussing. And I just happen to have the benefit because when Shane was coming up, it was a lot like, you're describing. You just wanted the best, and you like, is this the right program? And you look at other options, and for whatever reason, and I just happen to have hindsight of 7 years removed from the kids that are in my the younger ages of our program now. And, like, hey, it's okay. we think that 13 and 14U baseball is critical to the mission when in fact it's not. So when you get to high school and you have the success that the guys we mentioned did in the league, and then other opportunities arrive later on, I think it's even equally rewarding, or maybe even more so, that the journey took a little bit different path for you to get to maybe Division I or Division II baseball, but you kept grinding, you loved the game, and so anyway, I'm very proud of the Rock and honored by everyone and family and player that decides to opt into it and be part of what we're doing. And I don't get to say any of that without great people that believe in the way that we do our business, and we talked about that ad nauseum too. So,
and it's hard, man, because like, I remember, gosh, like my favorite, you were talking about Corden Petty. So my favorite Corden Petty story is that Arizona trip. We go to visit U of A. That's Joey's first visit. We're there, first visit. We go there and he's like, oh, it's pretty cool. And we meet with, who is now, where did he come from? Anyhow, he's now the head coach at San Diego State. He was their pitching coach at the time. He just took over for them. So he comes to the game. Joey threw okay. You know what I'm saying? First outing in 2 years or whatever, pro surgery and all that. And he's throwing, and it was okay. Corden was lights out. I mean, he was phenomenal. And I remember looking over at the guy's notepad. He's like, we have to get this kid.
Yeah,
it was just a funny. I remember I was like, and I remember telling him, man, this guy's good. He reminded me a lot of like, obviously I always make fun of people when they do these big analogies, but like it's almost like that Roger Clemensy, like Kurt Schilling, like big thick righty that just like repeat delivery. He was good. He's good.
Very repeatable motion. And there's another part of that story what's kind of funny. So Cash Brennan's dad, Ryan, was talking with the Arizona coach, and Joey had just finished up. So we kind of went 1-2 at this game.
Yeah.
And the Arizona coach is grabbing his backpack and his stuff and getting ready to take off. And Ryan says, hey, you might want to stick around and watch this young man. And he's like, well, who is it? He said, his name's Corden Petty. And he goes, I've never heard of him. Why haven't I heard of him? He goes, well, he's just like one of the best kept secrets for right now. But it's pretty soon.
Oh, that's funny. So that's why he stayed and watched.
That's why he stayed around. And then, awesome. For those that don't know it, the Arizona Fall Classic for upperclassmen, it's a modified showcase. And so you face 5 hitters and then that's it. Well, he fanned all 5 guys in 17 pitches.
Yeah,
like it was legitimately lights out. And so everybody was going. And then, he and Joey end up like, the coach is like, let's go. An hour and a half later, they're on the campus, they're doing the photo op and all that kind of thing. And so it really did, for a lot of kids at that time, those events were, deep,
there were
crossroads, if you will, right? And so
they were good. They were good. And I'm trying to think. So that would have been junior year, right? And so I just had this conversation with the dad who has a 1%er son, and I'll leave him out of it because he asked, hey, we're going on this stuff. And I think back to like Brock O'Haron. We're in 8th grade, and Brock and Kelly, they were great. They were a super awesome resource for us, being local, and Torn being, the man, and having the early commitment to Stanford and stuff like that. And them just saying like, hey, try and enjoy the process, try and enjoy the route. And that always stuck with me, because I would see Brock or Kelly and they would be, Torn was always doing his grades and always performing, but then it always felt like, my old boss who came up. So the sword of Damocles. Have you ever heard that phrase? It's an old saying, and essentially it's like someone says, hey, I want to be king too. I want to be the man. I want to be the man. And sword of Damocles is this old story about the sword. It's a big, heavy sword, and they hang it by a string over the king's throne. And so essentially you want to be king, but you don't know that you're always in fear of losing. You know what I mean? Of like, and so not to get too off topic, but like when you're committed early and you're the man and the pressure and all that stuff, everything you do is with this sword over your head, you know, that they could be taken any time.
Right.
And you think you want this great, you know, you want all this stuff, but you can't understand it until you live it. And so when I talk to parents now and they're saying, oh, hey, it's August 1st or whatever the date is for the boys, you know, and oh man, you did good. And I was like, hey, the one thing we learned is that we were late. We had to wait for recruiting. It was the best thing ever because he got recruited for who he was when he was just about to get there.
Right.
And there wasn't a lot of that time of worrying about performing and worrying about, overrated or all this other stuff.
Well, and you mix in, detour injury in all of that, right? Yeah. And all the anxiety in the process of getting back and, running into some delays in the recovery process and the therapy and all those things to get back. And then you wonder, when is it all going to happen? And so, he comes out to the Fall Classic. I got to believe that, when you're really going to cut it loose at that point, that there's, hey man, is this all still going to hold up? You still kind of have it in the back of your mind. 100%. So I think that those things build the character and help build who you are. Mm-hmm. So again, when the road isn't just straight and smooth the entire time, that you have to deal with adversity, and bringing up my son and that kind of thing. He spent the first 2 years at Folsom Lake with 12 plate appearances,
right?
Before he got into being a pitcher. And so, questioning whether or not that was the right decision and all of those things. And so now arriving at a point where there's some things going on and, he's getting an opportunity to be on the field and ingratiating himself with a new coach and all those kinds of things. There's an element of going through some disappointment and still there's going to be disappointment ahead, but I think it just helps leather you up to those kinds of things that you're talking about, the expectation level and that kind of thing. So I'm not surprised, that Joey and these other guys, are doing well, and a lot more kids in our area are going to, follow a similar path. And that's one of the great things about baseball in our area is that it's always talented, and we have a lot of good folks that kind of help toe the line.
When you talk about rankings and all these things, and Gordon Petty's coming out party and stuff like that, I saw the post last night from Trey Savage from the Blue Jays. I went to ECU, right?
Yeah.
And that's East Carolina, but no PG ranking, right? Like whatever. It is just funny. Like the guy just
22 years old.
The guy just blew away the World Series rookie record, right? Yeah. And Dodgers are pretty good, man. And he beat them. So it was like, it's so cliche, but it's just like, hey, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? Don't be the best 12-year-old, right? Don't be the best 16-year-old. Don't be the best 18-year-old, right? Just keep working. And, eventually I saw an interview today from a kid who's in the big leagues, and he was at Arkansas, and they were just asking, hey, what do you think? And just kind of relating to that, like, hey, he was ready to sign out of high school, and he actually went to college early. For baseball to play, and his dad was the GM at the Royals, so he's a baseball guy,
Right.
But now he was saying, knowing what I know now and being in the big leagues for 4 years, like I'm so grateful that I went to college, because just you think you want to play every day, but then it becomes a job, and so just interesting, you as we get older and our kids are playing, and you start to realize, like, okay, what are the sports here for? Because we're always chasing that pinnacle, World Series,
right.
My kid to pitch a World Series.
Yeah.
But for the other 99.9% of the world, they're not going to do that, So what is it that they're getting out of that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You want to get drafted out of high school, and you're talking to folks that are, that's a real possibility. Joey's a perfect example. I got to believe that the next however many years that he's at, the University of Arkansas is going to be some of the best years of his life. And it may not be on the baseball field. It might be all the stuff that happens relationally, supporting the other sports at a high level. I saw some photos of you guys at the football games, and I'm thinking to myself, 90,000 fans just going bananas, and all that brings from a young man's experience, tying that into, kids that, go to junior college, around here, you've got a number of colleges. It's the same thing that play in a gauntlet of a conference. You know, the Big 8 conference for junior college in Northern California is considered among the best in the state, certainly, and even maybe, you know, the western part of the United States and possibly even nationally.
The dogs are going
we
crazy.
We got the Zoomies in here.
Yeah, they love it. They're like, hey, get us in on this. You haven't brought us up yet.
Yeah, right.
No, it's
because
it's
those
totally
kids
valid.
are getting some experience and then the physical maturation of it. You know what I mean? And the responsibility of, even though it's a junior college, you're responsible for your own education. You know, the professors and whatnot aren't spending time with, you know, counselors and athletes versus, you know, and so it's really a good step for a lot of kids. You know, when I played, I went to junior college in the Bay Area because my best friend was going there.
Right.
You know, and coach didn't know I was and made the team and that kind of thing and whatnot. But for a lot of kids, that maturation process, being close to home and whatnot, is also a very good step. And then if you play very well in that conference, same kind of thing, Joe, which is amazing that now other opportunities come. They may come a little bit later than you would have liked when you were 14, 15, 16 years old. But at 19, 20, 21, you know, now I've got my man weight on. I've got more physical and emotional, psychological maturation. So now when I'm better prepared than maybe I was then. So again, getting back to this overall theme of, we're very fortunate locally with the programs that we have, the coaching staff that help develop our kids and all those kind of things, where my son, your son, is a byproduct of all of that is a great thing for sure.
I think, you know, we're just learning that the timeline for everybody's so different, you know, and you hear it and you'd say, oh yeah, you know, it's like, yeah, I understand, but not my kid. You know, we always think like, well, my kid's different because my kid's better. My kid wants it more. My kid works harder. My kid skipped breakfast. My kid skipped a dance. My kid doesn't drive a fancy car, whatever it is, right? We make all these things up to say, you know, our kid really deserves it. But, you know, I, as a parent, can't teach my son the hard lessons that he's learning now because I wouldn't. You know, I wouldn't kick him in the teeth when he's down, right? I wouldn't see him come off the field of a bad outing and say, that sucked. You need to do better, you know, or you're going to go home or whatever. Like whatever these coaches say, right? I mean, some do it just that aggressively. Some may put their arm around you and say, hey, kid, like you can do better. You know, he had his fall exit interviews and meetings and stuff, and some were great, some were not great. And so it's like, you know, but that's what you need. You know, you need to hear it from someone that not owns you, but, you know, every once in a while your boss comes in and says, hey, you're not doing well enough.
Yeah. You know, not the old adage of not having a dog in the fight. Like obviously the head coach or coaching staff at a big university have vested interest in team success, individual success of all of their players. But the harsh reality is that when you have the talent and everything to go to those schools, it is preparation for life.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we have conversations as father to son, it's not always as objective as
100%.
When the coach is, you know, giving you data feedback or, you know, even some subjective, like that's not good enough, but more direct, objective content as to why. You know, that's no different than if you're, you know, guys like us in sales, right? I mean, our production is a reflective of, you know, the level of professionalism, experience, and all those kinds of things. So there's no substitute for that, because as parents, we're going to default to, I love you no matter what you're going to do. And ultimately, coaches probably do to a large degree as well, but they're not in the position to give you warm fuzzies, nor is it the parent's job to always just be so directly critical, right? That we have to balance that out. And, you know, I'm guilty of all of that, you know, when Shane was young, and I recognized that it was best for our relationship moving forward that I didn't coach anymore.
Right.
We got so lucky. Shout out to Jerry Cruz, who's one of my close friends and gentleman that was the very first head coach of the Rock, kind of tying this back in. I was on the board at Tri-City. Shane was going in his 12th year, and the board decided a redraft. And so everybody went back into the draft. And by the grace of God, Jerry Cruz drafted my son. I went to the first practice, watched 15 minutes of it, and never went back. I got to spend the entire season out there at the left field fence and just enjoy the game of baseball. And it really did change my approach to that. And I was telling someone the other day, Shane's evolution at Folsom and now getting a chance to pitch and whether they're going back from Fresno or wherever his outing is and whatnot, he'll call and good, bad, or the other, and give me a recap of kind of how things went. And I'll tell you, Joe, it's the best 15 minutes of my day.
I agree.
And it's now an adult relationship conversation. And so I just encourage all parents that even when your son is younger, man, is like, yeah, you want to be. One thing I admire, Joe, is that you're Joey's and Savannah's biggest fan. We talked about that before. I'm the biggest cheerleader, and hey, say what you want. We all have our detractors, but listen, I am pulling for my kids and other kids around equally. But I'm a fan,
right?
And my job isn't to break them down and do all that. They have their coaches now to do that for them, and so. We would have the conversations when you were younger. You aren't even out of the parking lot, so to speak, right? And you're going like, oh my gosh, and all those kind of things. And again, it's only hindsight. But we talked to, Jones and I have talked about this a lot, not to go on too long of a rant here, but 13, 14, 15-year-old kids, we feel like it's critical to the mission. And the best thing that you can do is be supportive and not break down the game and just let the development be what it is. If your son is intrinsically motivated to be a good baseball player,
right?
If they want to get up and work out, if they want to do these things, then whether their physical development is later on or they're physically just ahead of everybody early on, nothing substitutes the intrinsic motivation to be really good. And if you want that, then you get to keep wearing the uniform in a lot of cases. And so, but as parents, if we can just be the fan, and that took me a long time to kind of get to, and ultimately now arriving at that point where my son's driving the ship. This is all, him now, and I just get to be a sidecar. And whether the call is like, yeah, I wasn't very good today, or yeah, it was pretty good. And, hey, I just got a call from this coach or whatever it may be. It's better. We only have the hindsight of that. And so, but the fact is that parents of the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old only know what they know. And that's no disrespect. But when we had kids the same age, that's how we were. And so if we can just impart some, like it's okay. It'll be okay. If your son is meant to go on, it will happen for them. So.
It's because it's out of our control. And we as parents, I mean, at least me as a parent, I want to control everything. I want to, and I think Farb hit it on the head. He's like, you just can't game the system. If you're good, you're good, right? The game changer stats and this and that, and you just missed it. And I think that's been the one really cool thing that Joey has learned over this fall, right? It's like, when you're good, you're good. You don't have to say anything. People will come and tell you, man, that was good. And when you're not, you're not. And it'll just show, because I think now with the metrics and all the stuff, like, hey, man, you either throw a pitch that does what it's supposed to do, or you square up a ball that has an exit velo of whatever, but there's so much analytics that they're like, I don't know, like it's what it is. And in hindsight, looking back, I wish we could have just enjoyed the ride more, but tell me what parent human being hasn't looked back on their life and said that, right? Because most people were stressing off of one thing or the other.
I think we all agree that playing the game was way easier than watching your children play.
No doubt. No doubt.
It brings a different, stress level. We went to a game that, there was a period of time there for almost 2 years. Shane had a broken hamate, so he was out, redshirted. a lot of great players. He got converted to first base, and then there's a gentleman left comes in, kid hits 400, all conference, kind of all NorCal. Just had an amazing season, and so we didn't see Shane play baseball really for the better part of 2 years.
Right.
And so, just recently we went out to a fall game, and he got to pitch, and like it's fall baseball, and I can feel my heart rate going up, and I have to walk around a little bit.
The pitcher's dad walk around.
Hey, man.
Welcome to the club, dude.
And so I'm trying to, blend in. I don't want him to see any of that. And he's so focused, he doesn't, which is the way you need to be anyway, right? Yeah. Were you there? Okay, good. That's exactly what I had my camouflage on. You witnessed, I was part of a bush. So
yeah, I was in the bushes with the binoculars.
But, so anyway, my point is that, as parents, we grind on that, and we stress out way more than our players do, sons and daughters. They're out there loving it. You know what I mean? And obviously we want them to be successful, but they play the game by and large. There's, when you're on a university, there's a business element to it, but it's still got to bring the joy. And so
it's so hard.
It's hard, but it's way easier than when our kids become parents. They'll feel what we feel, and they'll say the same thing, which is, man, it was so much easier to play the game, which is true.
Yeah. And I think I've joked around about this ad nauseum, but I can't wait for the grandpa phase. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to live and breathe on the pitches or the at-bats. Yeah. I'm going to just be happy that I'm there. I'm going to always have snack shack money, right? I'm always snack bar. Yeah, let's go get it. You know, I don't care if you won, lost, looked at strike three, didn't swing. We're going to get ice cream, whatever, right? Within, as long as the parents are good with it. But those are the things where I feel okay, so this weekend, we're down in LA for softball, and we get our flights, and they're playing in. It was a new event that they were in, and the Sunday was Juggernaut Central, the 4 big dogs of SoCal. So much to the point where this tournament was, hey, because Sav's team is it's a new team of a bunch of good players, but they're not under an umbrella that is a normal umbrella, like a name. So they had to play a bunch of, they 10-run to everybody, on Saturday. And it was kind of ooh. So then on Sunday, in come the Juggernauts, who didn't have to play on Saturday because they all played each other because, SoCal softball's a little bit like the mafia. It's these guys own it and run it, and good for them, right? And so much to the point where Sunday morning, we're playing a younger team of the Juggernaut org, and they're the bee's knees, whatever, and we win. And people are like, oh, who are these, they think a rec ball team.
Right.
Then they play kind of a okay team. They beat them too. Then the third game is against essentially the number 2 in this huge org that you've heard of, trust me. And so much so that first inning, they score a run on us, and the parents are like, yeah. Well, then the bottom of the first, we get in and we score 2 runs. The parents are coming to this game late because they're just they think this is going to be a wash,
They've looked at the schedule and said,
one of the dads says to the other dad that I'm talking to, he says, hey, what's the score? Oh, 2-1. Guy goes, how'd they score a run off us? The guy goes, no, they're winning 2-1. He says, what? They scored 2 runs off of so-and-so? Yeah. So then I'm sitting there just laughing, right? Because I'm not wearing gear. I try not to. Technically, I was wearing a Coastal hat and an Arkansas shirt. And Savannah gets up, and she hits a ball. I mean, this was probably the biggest home run. For sure, it was the biggest field she's ever hit a home run on, but she hits it's 220. It's got a tall fence and then a big net. She hits it maybe a quarter away up the net. I mean, it was holy crap, And the guy goes, holy smokes, And I don't make a peep, I'm just yeah. And he goes, where's that girl going? I go, she's going to Coastal Carolina. Oh, is that what your hat is? Yeah. Oh, okay. Man, her dad must be proud. I go, I am,
Yeah.
And it's just funny, oh, that's your daughter? Yeah. And those are the proud moments, I think, where now I'm not screaming and cheering or whatever. It's you got to ask me. But anyways, they go to the next game, and we were going to have to fly home. because it ran late. How are we going to make it to the end? So now we're playing literally a juggernaut, right? And this is the guy that Oklahoma sends all their recruits to go play for.
Right.
Hey, before you come here, go play for this guy. We don't care what state you live in. You go down and you go play here for this guy. And Angel looks at me and she says, boy, the girls are playing good. What do you think about driving home? And I'm like, ugh, okay. What are our other options? Well, we can try and take the 8:00 flight, but then we got to fly to Arizona, whatever. And we look at each other and go, let's stay because we're gonna have 2 more games. Well, lo and behold, the other 2 teams, they went home because they go, hey, this guy's going to wax them and we're going to give the victory, because it was like a $3,000 prize. And it was going to an entry for this other tournament that happens in Colorado. These guys don't play in it because they play in their own thing, right? It's like, hey, we're going to give it to, and initially the agreement was they were going to give it to a team that we had already beat, but they didn't realize. So they thought the guy that we were about to play was going to mop the floor with us and he'll just give it to his lower team. So fast forward, me and Angel, my point of this whole story was like, they win it all. They beat the team. Sav has a great at bat, and we rent a car and we drive home. And driving home at 8:00 at night from LA, like 7:30, it sucks, but I wouldn't change it, man. I got to be there for her. I got to see a phenomenal at bat she had against a great pitcher. She ends up getting the lead. They go up 2-1 on this team. And another cool side fact of that was I was talking to 2 of the dads that are on the parents of the other girls. And they're like, who are you guys? Like, where'd this team come from? And so we're saying, oh, yeah. And she says, Arkansas baseball. So I'm kind of, thank God, low key, oh, yeah, my son's there. Damn, he must be good. How's the team doing? Oh, he's okay, whatever. Well, one of the guys is like, oh, yeah, my son's on the Phillies. He was going to go to Oregon. He got drafted, blah, blah, blah. The other guy goes, oh, yeah. He goes, that's awesome, man. Baseball's great. I played for the Red Sox. It was just a funny, I'm like, Jesus, you're kidding me. So then they're kind of kicking down knowledge, you know what I mean? And we're just talking baseball, and they both have daughters that are on this guy's team. And they're saying the same thing. They're like, hey, man, we're just so happy to enjoy it because when I played, it was way easier than watching my kid, and I'm saying, oh, like just a big picture. But that's a long story of saying I'm really happy that we drove home. We didn't get home till 3:30 in the morning. And I hope Savannah remembers that. But if she doesn't, Angel and I will remember it. We were there and we got to enjoy it because, not because of the victory definitely made it better. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. But it was just cool to see her succeed and be there and not have to watch it remotely.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you want. I think as parents, we all kind of want to
be present,
Be present, yes. And changing schedules around and whatever, Laura and I last night were having this, sort of lofty conversation. Shane got contacted by a program. And we're like, well, that's way over, so
far away. Yeah.
Yeah. How are we going to, but I'm not, and then Laura's just like defiantly, like, I'm not missing if that goes down. Right.
Yeah.
So no, okay. But really that's regardless of where they go, we just want to be there. And I think that whether it goes said or unsaid, knowing that your parents are there, whether it's success or failure, and that they're always, there, that's the priority that, you and Angel do a great job of being like omnipresent, so to speak. You're here conducting your business. And then, on social, you guys are there, here, and making sure that, we're not going to miss these milestone moments for you. And whether or not they say, hey, mom and dad, I really appreciate it. Later on down the road, when they become adults, I think young adults in particular, the sacrifices and everything that you did they resonate more. I remember when I was young, there was an incident that I had, and it wasn't a great time, you know, for me. I was raised by a single mom. And there was a point in time, I think I just turned 21. And my mom and I are both in tears. And she looked at me and she said, "I live for you." Mm. And it was at that moment where, being a single, I was, selfish and all these things growing up, and it was all about me and all those kinds of things. And then it was like this seminal moment where I realized everything that it was, just like a lightning strike almost, if you will. Yeah. So I think that what you're describing and the appreciation is going to, they'll be that your kids moment. There'll be that moment when it all clicks and like, yeah, man, I mean, we had it pretty good. And you guys supported me with everything. And so as young teenagers and whatnot, we're in the moment. And so we don't reflect on those things until later on, maybe even when your playing days are coming to an end or whatever that may be. But there will be, and parents, listen when I say it, that all the sacrifices you make for your kids so that they can try to attain their goals, it will come back. There will be a time when they recognize how much of a sacrifice and everything that you did for them. It may not be right now, and it might be thankless, it feels like at times, but you touch on something that's very close to home because, you don't want to miss those because eventually, regardless of how long they play or whatnot, they will appreciate all of that and then take that into their adult life and hopefully the same thing for their children, right? And so I think you're right on point there, Joe, that, you don't want to miss those, and ultimately your kids are going to recognize that
for sure
that you were there.
I think even like having Joey away from home and I don't know if the right word's craving or if that's too theatrical, but like craving that conversation and contact, it's allowed me to understand what my mom wants from me, and when she's calling, "Hey, I just want to talk to you," and even as a young parent, young adult, I mean, I'm not young anymore. Now I'm old, but I'm still learning. So like yesterday, I had to run up to Auburn to grab something. I just stopped by her house, "Hey," and I missed her. But, I know to her, she's like, "Man, that was cool that you stopped by. I'm glad you got to see my stepdad." And I had a great talk with him, because like you, sort of kind of, my dad was around when I was really young and then was gone. And so, my mom didn't miss anything. And only in listening to you talk do I realize, man, my mom was there for everything. And I don't know if I've ever put the two and two together that like, hey, I'm there for everything. And then you're saying like, hey, that will play out. You know what I'm saying? Because I often joke that like, my dad loved fishing so much, but he was always fishing. And it wasn't always fishing with me, right? So then maybe when I grew up, I didn't like fishing. But now that I'm old and I'm like, man, I kind of like fishing. But I think I had a negative thing because it was what I associated missing time with my dad, right?
Yeah.
And so with growing up, and I often say this part too, where people go, "Oh man, you're living through your kid." And it's like, that's a negative theory that people use. And it's like, I am living through my kid. Not that I wanted to be this major pitcher. Right. I just want him to succeed. And you hear that phrase a lot, right? And I try and tell Joey this all the time. There's nobody on this planet that wants you to be better than your dad, and I tell him a lot. I tell the kids both this, like this is uncharted territory. I didn't have my dad around me the way that I'm around you. And so I'm learning, man, and I'm not perfect. I think as we get older, this old, like, do it because I said so, or I'm right because of who I am, that's all out the window now. It's kind of like, hey, I need to reflect on who I am as a person. Angel's been great at helping me learn, and not to get too emotional, but just, like, hey, be in touch with your feelings. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's like, sometimes I'm sad about whatever, we'll have this conversation. I'm like, man, it's such a weird, not normal feeling, because I do consider myself prideful, right? And like, ooh, but it's helped me understand that, like, and it's in our marriage, right? Like, if Savannah does bad in a game, I'm just not, it's not a good time to talk to me.
Right.
You know, like I need some time because like, you know, oh man, you live and die with your kids. Like, yes, like I want her to win the spelling bee. You know, she's not in a spelling bee. She's in a softball game, and that's fine. Like I get it. It's not everybody's not in the spelling bees, not everyone's in softball. But like for me, I live and is it healthy? Is it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just what my life is.
No, we just want our kids to be successful, you know, in anything that they do. And, you know, again, I think that, you know, Shane just turned 21, right? So he's an adult kind of thing. And, even though like I mentioned, the heart rate goes up when you watch, and, you know, you want them to be successful in everything that they do. So I think that's human nature, you know? And I think the part that you try to do as a parent too is always the balance of the humility aspect, trying to be humble when, you know, when success comes, because invariably, hey, how's Joey doing? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? You and I had a talk just last week about what's going on out there. How's he doing? Like, hey man, he's struggling a little bit. He's good moments, bad moments. You got to work on this. And the coach said, you got to be better at this and all that kind of thing. And it's like, man, all of that's good. Sometimes it's tough to hear, you know, that, hey, I'm kind of going through it a little bit, but I'm learning, I'm getting better. And so there's always going to be these disappointing moments along the path. But getting back to the bigger point of being there, you know, regardless of the success or failure, as much as we want them to always succeed, better human beings come out of adversity. There's just no two ways about it. So, you know, whether it's injury or, you know, and overcoming that, or, I'm at a school now where the expectation level is here and I'm surrounded by guys that are, you know, of a similar ilk, and and there's going to be, you know, you see guys in the World Series giving up 400-foot home runs, right? And like it's hard you can't make a case that they're not successful because they got one pitch and then they lost the game, or it's a walk-off or something. How bad do you feel for that kid? And if you're in the stands and that's your kid, by the way, you're like, oh my God.
Like Blake Snell's parents, right? Yeah. You're like, oh my God, on top of the world. And then 2 home runs in the first 3 pitches.
Right.
And then I had to look at it last night. I think his contracts are worth over $300 million. Like, the only reason why, and that's where, you know, people are like, oh, the money. I'm like, don't get me wrong. He definitely works for the money, you know, but the guy pitching, it's not a money, you know, there's another level built into these guys. Joey wants to make as much money as he can make. There's no doubt about that. But there's this other thing inside of him that wants to win, whatever he's doing, you know, whether it's ping pong, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Like you want to win. And so,
that's the great thing about team athletics, right?
Yeah.
Is the common goal. And not to suggest in any way, shape, or form that individual athletics or individual endeavor isn't as impactful. But when you have a collection of guys coming from every background imaginable, right? With a common goal, pulling on the same side of the rope.
Yeah.
And you want to be successful for your teammates, and you want to win for your team, and you want to, you know, because some of the best moments of, you know, my playing days, albeit at a lower level, that's the stuff that you talk about when you get together 30 years later as teammates and whatnot. You talk about all of these moments, the bus rides and all the things that happen experientially while you're doing it. But there's no greater, in my opinion, there's nothing greater than team athletics. You know, in the climate that we're in with all this garbage that's going on around and polarizing, you know, where we are. Look at college football, college baseball, high school baseball, whatever that may be. It breaks all of that down. It eliminates that, because these guys and girls, softball or whatever, volleyball, they're all fighting for a common goal, which becomes way more important than the individual success, right?
Yeah.
And anyway,
no, I
that's
think
a whole
I think
nother
it's,
kind
no,
of
no,
detour
but I think,
there.
I think it's a good point. It's like we talked about this before. You know, I think I said it when Jones was on too. I think Shane's Whitney team that won, you know, that Gilmore, Jimenez, that that year they won it all.
Yeah.
I would see those guys out cruising around. They were like a team, man. Those guys were a team, and I was jealous of that for my son. But then I realized, like, it's not my son's thing. It wasn't his style, and like, good or bad. I'm not justifying it or not justifying. I'm just saying, like, you just have to understand what it is, And so when it was his senior year and those guys pulled together, it was different, but they still pulled together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they still did their thing. And so it's 50-50, right? Now that he's had a big program, he is enjoying that team chemistry more.
Right.
Than I think he enjoyed it earlier.
Sure.
But he also has that understanding that, like, you got to perform, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you can, I don't know if it's like the expectation from each guy. There's definitely a different expectation when you get to the next level. If you're out smoking and joking and screwing around, there's not a lot of, like, that's not allowed at the next level. Unless, when I say unless, but quotations, but like, you absolutely kill it. If you can maintain that and still do, because I think that's what they learn. That whole life lesson, right? Is like, there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. Some guys can go out and do their thing and they don't prepare the way you prepare. And you think, oh, that's wrong. They don't prepare. But then when they show up and the lights turn on, they get it done.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples, and not in any negative way, that the rules don't apply to, the rules vary
for sure,
and certainly there are countless examples of that just being so gifted that even a normal work ethic leads to success because you just have other attributes that maybe, but at the same time, you want to, enjoy your college experience within reason,
we always talk about that, the pinnacle, right? Hey, you want the pinnacle to be the Little League championship? Do you want the pinnacle to be high school championship, college? I mean, even, obviously, everybody has this different view of where they want to end up, but like, I mean, the pinnacle, if you're always cruising up and keeping your sights high, then you probably can't enjoy any level too much.
Shane and I have talked about that recently. Just the level of goals, right? They change when you reach them. You have to continue to change those, And so now that Shane has converted from catcher to pitcher, that's a different goal set now.
And what a cool, like, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but like reborn, like, what a cool thing. Now all of a sudden he's got this new endeavor and these new PRs and these new things to achieve and these new, because, now he's got, hey, I'm coming out of the pen. Now maybe he'll get a start. Then maybe he'll get 2 innings. Then maybe he'll get 4 innings. Then maybe he'll get a CG. Maybe, right? Like, we don't know.
Right.
But I think that's the exciting part, is like, you guys got a new chapter of this book that you thought, okay, we're getting close to the end here and we're going to have a couple more, whatever stories to tell. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, oh my God, the book just got bigger.
Yeah. That's been an interesting evolution. It's been a lot of fun. I think that it did the opportunity, and I give a lot of credit. I mean, all the credit goes to Shane. At the time he made the decision to go to Folsom Lake, there's a fair amount of head scratching going on. We live right across the street from Sierra College, and I'll just throw a couple of shouts out. Robbie Wilson is a very good friend of mine. I played against Robbie back in the day.
Okay.
I love him dearly. Coach Evangelo, who's the new head coach, Evo's the best. I mean, you won't find a better human being that really cares about his guys.
650 guy. Peninsula guy, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Yeah. And so Josh Morton is a very, very dear friend and a key cog in the Rock, without a doubt. And on and on and on. So my love and affinity for Sierra College baseball runs very deep. My son made a decision, though, that he passed by Sierra College 10,000 times in his childhood and didn't, like, it's almost like not going away anywhere. And so even though Folsom Lake wasn't that far, and when he went, the coach there at the time, Coach Gregory, was very honest with Shane. Like, yeah, I think you're good, but you're not good enough, to play here right now. And I think that resonated with him a little bit, that, that there was blunt force trauma honesty with the assessment, but yet the coach still wanted him. And so now you fast forward where he gets tapped by the coach. He hasn't played much, right? He redshirted and, as I mentioned earlier, a broken hand, and then just runs up against the juggernaut. They got 2 Division I bounce back catchers. And then they've got, a left first baseman that happens to be 23 years old as a freshman. I mean, the guy's a grown man, and he hits 420. And so, it just was, you have to wait your turn, and then you don't know when that's going to come up. So to your point, Joe, of just this road, if you will, I think that it's sparked a new level of excitement and desire, if you will. And so he's working really hard, and, who knows what the future is, but I'm excited for him.
And so that kind of brings us into, like, you guys make the training ground, and you're pretty much, Shane's out of high school before you start that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the training ground is this new batting cage training facility. You guys recently linked up with Lead Performance.
Yeah.
Which they're kind of the cutting edge guys, at least.
Yeah,
we haven't done it, but it seems like people that do it love it.
Yeah, universally people love it. Blair's just another. I mean, that guy's 7 days a week grinding it. He's mobile. He takes it outside of the facility, but he's that relationship as just a new one, but modern methods.
Is he going to come to the training grounds, or are kids going to go there? How's that?
Right now, our kids are going to go there, and that's
that makes sense.
We could go into just what makes it so great, but there's a lot of flexibility on time and day, where the kids are on an app that tracks their performance and their improvement, as well as, I can go in and schedule. I want to go at 4:30 today, but then on Thursday I got to go at 7 because I have a thing from 4 to 5 or whatever it may be. And so Blair's setup provides a lot of flexibility for the kids to go in and get their training when they want. That's been a great partnership already. And our kids universally, this is a fact that if you go there, I haven't heard anybody opt out or say, this the way they go about it really isn't for me. If you follow Lead Performance on social and just kind of see what they're doing, just all the different stuff they post regularly, they bring DJs in there and get the house lights going on. I mean, it's really next level stuff. Cool. They're doing stuff really cool, and we're honored that Blair would partner with us. And there's a recent post where he put our logos with his and said some things just make sense. So I mean, again, nice. A community thing. Then we're very, very blessed and fortunate.
A local guy, and I think the one thing we have learned in our household, at least from Junior being gone, is that with strength and conditioning, speed and agility, all that stuff, like, there are metrics that these guys can use. You mentioned the app. With Joey, it was vertical. For whatever reason, the baseball program their training is insane, but it's this high explosive leaping, rolling, twisting, throwing I mean, it's very unorthodox in my eyes. It's not like, hey, stand there, do a squat. Hey, I mean, they do these things, but there's these other things that kind of blow your mind. You're like, what are they doing? And then there's a measurable, there's a metric, there's something there. So I think probably with Lead, that's what they do. They do some high intensity type stuff. Then there's a measurable, and then you get to show and demonstrate. Everybody hates, I hate velocity. They don't ever talk about throwing strikes, right? But the velocity is a metric you can measure. In strength and conditioning, now they're starting to come out with these things that, hey, if you can jump this high, you have whatever, this mobility, this strength or something, and there's a metric there. You measure that. Similar to maybe sprinting, how fast you run.
Yeah, that's there is a level of sophistication that kind of goes along with, the equipment, the training methods, this force plate testing where it measures a number.
Yep.
They do that, once a week. or is it twice a week anyway? I mean, that's something that they constantly do. And then they can go in and sort of, customize a workout to a degree for even individual stations. They'll let Joey know that, hey, at this station, this is what we want. Even though Fred's over here doing this at this station, this is what we want you to do on that station, kind of thing. So there is a level of customization to it. But the modern methods, I remember Shane doing CrossFit when he was young. It was deadlifts and squats and whatnot. And he herniated a disc at like 13 years old, trying to get a PR on a deadlift.
Same here. Yeah, right.
And it's just like, and the Olympic style lifting method of building strength and athleticism, there's a place for it. They incorporate it, but it's far less important than some of the other stuff that you alluded to.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of putting it. It's like the guy who throws kegs over the wall, in the great strongman competition, like he's really strong, but he probably doesn't do something else, and so there's specific training for specific sports now.
Ask that guy to scratch his back when he's got an itch back there, and he can't get around to it. There's just no way.
And I think that will be cool is, for the parents who are looking, and I'm one of those parents, man. I complain a lot about costs, and man, this is so expensive, and man, this is so expensive, and life is expensive.
Yeah,
But
I remember having a conversation with a dad that we both know, and imagine telling your young man that, hey, listen, the odds are stacked against you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the $50,000 that we would spend over the next 10 years for you to go around and play baseball, and we're going to put that in a college fund, and it's going to be way better for you in the end because we'll be able to, fund college, and that's going to be better for you in life to do this than, like what? Wait a minute, why would we? And then, the conversation was, well, Fred, listen, if I didn't do this, at least give my opportunity to go do this elite thing and spend this money, what kind of parent am I, And so there's this element of the balance of those things, like, and so we most folks do what they can and put themselves in, sometimes precarious financial situations for their kids. And ultimately, why do you do what you do? If you can't,
totally, dude.
So
totally.
Anyway, so
and I will say, you and I have had some very good conversations, about the facility, the Rock in general. Like, it's really easy for parents who don't understand, or parents who maybe think they understand, to think like people are getting rich. Like, oh, this is so expensive, they're getting rich. It's like, you have no idea the amount of money. Like, I remember when you guys were going through the facility just to get it ready, like the ancillary red tape of things that you guys had to go through just because you said, I'm going to have a batting cage inside, but and I don't know, I don't know what the right way is, because, to counterbalance that argument from someone, you could go out and say, hey, listen, guys, this costs this costs that, this costs this. Then you get the other arguments like, hey, man, don't tell me about your problems. You're the one that started it. It's like, yeah, I get it. I'm running a business, but ultimately it's fueled with like this desire and love for the sport. And I do genuinely want other kids to do well. I'm not driving a Lamborghini because I charge $35 a month for your kid to hit in this batting cage.
Yeah, Joe, that's a great point. Thank you. We started the Rock when Shane was a freshman.
Okay.
And so that was just this happenstance of, Tri-City Little League guys and some Rockland Little League guys, and just this, when you get kids in Rockland, to play together, it's really good things. And so we had a really good team, but, we're playing up in Reno, this 14U thing, and like you've got this split of kids that are going from 7th to 8th grade, and a group of kids that are eighth graders of the same age but are going into high school. And so there's this conversation of those kids, like, what are we going to do? We have to do, we got to come up with things. So I threw my hand up and said, well, listen, I'll get us some dry fit shirts with a number on the back and enter a tournament and get some, some PTS 20 Richardson hats, that are $18 per or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and at that time, as an equal thing, Shane and I paid the same that everybody else did.
Yeah.
Right. And so here we are, years later, and the growth of the rock program, and then tying into the training ground. My wife hates this, but the money that I've taken out of the rock is specifically related to personal expenses that I incurred in order to make things happen at the outset.
For sure.
And so, yes, it's expensive. And I recognize that, having been a parent, and I'm very cognizant of that. And unfortunately, things cost. We play in these tournaments for 13-year-olds. It's a 3-game guarantee, and it costs $1,000 for Pete's sake.
Right.
And we're scratching our head going, what are we doing? There's got to be a better model. But the fact is that that's how much they charge for the tournaments,
Yeah.
And
the field and the umpire. And
fields, umpires, insurance are, and the biggest thing with the program is the coaching staff. One thing I'm very proud of is that
no parents.
We have coaches that have been in the program for years. And so they're the best. There's the most important commodity. Joe, we could have a great idea in this community-based thing, but if you don't have coaches, you got a mouse on a wheel and you're going to get exposed. And so even though we don't always have the most talented teams, our 13 and 14-year-olds have 4 college level coaches that coach them. We practice on a college field, for Pete's sake. And we're tied to lead performance, and now we've got the new indoor facility. So yes, all of those things combined do increase the expense, because we pay our coaches more than any program around. And so every dollar that we charge a parent goes directly related to a cost that is for the children, the kids in our program. I don't pay one bill from the Saunders household through the rock.
Right.
And so that's something I'm very proud of. And so for a long time, and I'm not saying that
but listen, we
like
talked about this in the beginning.
Yeah.
When I say to you, like, hey, our friendship was based in, more than just work or just, I think all of that stuff is what I'm talking about, right? Like, and I'll be the first one to admit, when I was younger and the kids were younger, I was the complainer. Why is this hat $35? This is stupid. Why am I paying this? Why am I paying that? And so now, in hindsight, I get to lean back and talk to these guys. Like Jerry Berkson, right? He runs the Feds. And I remember when we first started, it was our first non-dad, thing. And he's like, hey, these hats are whatever, $25, $30. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. I paid $800 to be in this team. At least I should get a hat, or at least I should get this. And it's like, now I realize, oh, what an idiot. And I owe Jerry some love on that, because I think he did give me a hat.
And I want to also acknowledge, the parents and their entrusting us with their, that's a big responsibility. And there's, Joe, when we started 4 years ago, there was a handful of programs, and the suspects that have been in our town.
Yeah.
Well, as it stands right now, within a reasonable stone's throw, a 5-mile radius, there are 11 youth programs that serve 13 and 14-year-olds. And so, we understand that we can't be all things to all people, but I do want to give a lot of love and respect to the parents that believe in the people that are part of the program, the mission of the program. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that over the course of the last 4 years, we've scholarshiped a number of kids that that couldn't, and part of that is because what we do charge for the services is some of it, a large portion of it is set aside for the families who need to kick the can down the road, and so we can't serve everyone, but there's a lot of that aspect of the program that we are proud of. That it's not
it's
something
under the radar.
we don't, and I only bring it up to say that the acknowledgement of the expense of it, and the fact that, to your point, no one's getting rich. Certainly, every one of our coaches has a day job, right? So they do this as a labor of love too, right? In essence, and so yeah, that's and that's not to say that look, I'm a capitalist by nature.
Yeah, 100%.
And so the folks that make money in the industry of baseball and have figured out how to do that, and pay their mortgage through their programs, 100%. We're just motivated differently, and the training ground is the evolution of that. And so yes, there was a great deal of expense to get the training ground up and running. But I'm incredibly proud of that too. It's right here. It's 8 minutes away from everybody who lives in Rockland. Mm-hmm. It's right in the middle of town. It's our little boutique. It's not this grandiose thing.
Great for the high school team. The high school team got to go in there.
All of that. Thank you, Joe, for bringing all of that up. But again, it's all truly coming from the right place of trying to help as many kids that want to be in families that want to be part of what we're doing. And if not, that's okay too.
Yeah. And I mean, I always, we always preface before we get on here, like, hey, we're going to stay positive. And this is positive, but it's interesting seeing behind the curtain of the Rock and understanding that some parents, and they're good people, because I know these people, but kind of would leave you high and dry, and leave you for things. And it was like, damn, man, you don't need to like, and I think this is my message to parents. And by the way, the most humbling experience ever was being at work. Joey goes to an event. He doesn't play because they're going to pitch him the next game. And we don't know that, and Angel goes into the dugout or not the dugout, but there's this big to do, right? Where we leave. And we didn't even pay to be on that team because let's be honest. I was like, oh, my son's so good. Why should I have to pay? Well, guess what? The coach paid for him, and then we left that coach, and that guy was so great. And this is a long time ago, but I remember having to call him and just say, hey, I'm sorry. That was a shitty thing for me to do. I wasn't there. I was out of control in the sense of like, didn't understand. Poor Angel, right? She's the messenger. And I'm telling her, oh, just go, blah, blah, blah. And when I say this to parents, like I'm speaking from experience, that this is, do you think I want to admit that, that like, this guy who was doing everything he could for my kid, I left him high and dry and didn't even, I didn't understand that he was footing the bill. You know what I mean? He was just paying it because, he wanted the team to do good and he was coaching and stuff. But like, someone's got to pay that, and if you're not paying it or you think you're paying it, before you leave a team, and we've left plenty of teams, so I've learned to try and leave at the right time. And every time you leave, it's going to not be great. You know what I mean? You're going to piss someone off, but there's a way to do it.
Yeah. And, this kind of going back to Matt Jones and his wisdom about these things. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is my own, headspace, because I live in the community with which our program is.
Yeah.
A lot of these folks we interact with and we see on a regular basis, whether on the ball field or at the grocery store, or whatever it may be, mm-hmm. And so when someone opts out, not necessarily in a ball of fire, but just like, unhappy for one reason or another, or the timing of it or whatnot, I have historically taken that really personally,
yeah, right.
Because of
which is human.
The time and energy, and like I it's almost like this, like, man, if you again, if you only
knew what I've been doing for your kid,
right,
you wouldn't have done this.
You may not, you may not. But so the scalpel that is Jones is this, hey Fred, and I think you and I've talked about this. It's you can't begrudge the family that are just doing their level best for what they think is best for their child. And you can't take that personally, right? And so we had a situation a couple of years ago where we're going out to a big tournament destination, out of town, out of state. And 2 weeks before we're supposed to go, I get a call that says, yeah, hey Fred, we're not going to go to the trip. We're going to leave and we're going to go to this other program. Well, wait a second, really? Like, well,
Yeah.
hey, look, this is the last event of the thing. When it's over, then go do what you need to do. And then in addition to that, the message was, well, and oh, by the way, that team that we're moving over to is going to be at the same tournament that you're at.
Right.
And I remember just being like completely,
yeah,
like just hurt more than pissed. Like, wow, man, like ultimately, it's not just me too. You're leaving other kids in the lurch, your teammates in the lurch. And now from a program standpoint, I've got to go out and try to solicit a player to backfill and all those with 2 weeks left, kind of thing. And so,
right.
It's those kind of things. But again, it's not personal against Fred Saunders. It could be a philosophical thing or whatever it may be, a playing time thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's almost 1,000,000% not personal, Fred Saunders, because you're not even coaching. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe sometimes you are and stuff, but it's like, it's usually this communication thing, And I think for parents, it's like, hey man, the 24-hour rule is golden. Have your kid self-advocate, but then also understand like that, like this, but we're in this era of I want it now. I want the Amazon Prime. I want it today between 2 and 6.
Right.
I don't want it in 2 days.
Right.
Remember when in 2 days was freaking awesome.
Right.
Oh my God, I can get this on Wednesday if I order it Monday.
Right.
Now it's like, well, what can I get today? I mean, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And if your kid's not starting and batting and this and that, it's really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was actually from a young man who led the team in innings played and plate appearances at the time that they decided to leave. So it was really counterintuitive. But
no, we've had plenty of conversations about that. And I think what I'll tell you, if you're that 12, 13-year-old parent and your kid is really good, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, we got to plan the next best thing. There's a lot to be learned by being the best on the team. I'm not saying like always play down, because I don't agree with that. But there is something to be said for just sticking with it, being on a team, learning how to, maybe be a leader, maybe, do stuff. And yeah, but losing brings a lot of learning. And you don't have to win everything to be the best.
Yeah, our teams have done their share of losing on the developmental youth side, and so, I think that getting back to, Coach Watt at Whitney said something years ago, and you've heard me say this before, so I want to give Coach Watt the credit because this isn't my quote, but parents, we all want the same thing. We want the 8 best players plus our player,
right.
our child on the field at all times.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so with that, the logical next kind of piece is that nobody wants to be the best player on a team, because the connotation is that I want to be 5th or 6th the best.
Everybody wants to be the 3rd best player on the team,
right? And so again, human nature.
So I'm batting to the top of the order. I'm playing all the time.
Yeah,
I could be a little better,
right?
But I could be worse. Yeah.
And so as a program, again, trying to be all things to all people early on, and even now, but I'm better because of the conversations
100%.
With Jones, as I mentioned,
100%.
But
and the organization grows, right? With every fallout or one of these stories, you'll learn a new thing, And I think to a parent, because I'm always the why guy, hey, why? Like back to Jerry Berkson, West Coast Federal has been doing it forever. He has a what's he call it? This bulletin that he sends out. It's like the Bible of Federals. And so it was funny because this year, a friend of mine whose kid is 10, hey, Joey Lorenzini's mentioned in the I can't remember why, I can't remember what it's called, but essentially the book, the dossier. And it goes something like this. Hey, there's different levels to the team, right? He calls them red and blue. We here call it national or state team, whatever we call it. But essentially he goes, hey, so I've heard some parents complain that their kid's not on the top team. They're on the other team. Look at these 3 players. right? And he mentions these 3 kids, and one of them is Joey Lorenzini. And he says, Joey Lorenzini played on the quote unquote second team. He didn't play on the top team. And he didn't play on the top team when we asked him because his mom didn't like me. That's what Jerry put in there, right? And it was funny. It was funny. I'm like, oh my gosh. And Angel starts laughing. And he goes, Google them. Google these kids if you don't know who they are. Because all 3 of them, one of them was Sarah's top guy. He's in college. Another one was another first guy at Sarah, and he's at college. And then the other kid's Joey, right? And so all 3 of those kids didn't play on the top team for 3 different reasons. One kid was on the top team, got dropped down. One kid just never got moved up, and one kid chose not to move up. And all 3 kids are playing D1 baseball. And his point is like, just trust me, but that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And all these rules that have come in, hey, when you show up to the field, you'll have shoes on. You won't have your stirrups out. I don't want to see your jersey untucked. And it's these bulletin points, and it's up to like 60, and most parents are probably like, what the heck? This guy's on a trip. Just like I was when I first read it, like, what the heck? This guy thinks he is, and it's like, he's learned, and he's a dad whose kid was really good and then stopped playing, and didn't play. And then the next son was really good. And then I think he ended up playing hoops or something,
Right.
And, if you're going through that youth baseball path, the 12, 13, and your son is enjoying it, try and just keep it there.
Yeah.
Yes, strive for excellence, but I can show you 20 parents that tell me how great their kid was when he's 12, but because of some other reason, he's no longer playing.
We have a young man in the program now that he's a freshman at Rockland. And last year he was on our 8th grade team, and he's the best player.
Mm-hmm.
And the team was really a mix of handful of pretty good players and a lot of developmental guys that just really hadn't reached physical maturation. So playing on the bigger field, going from 7th grade at 54-80 up to 60-90 and a drop 3 from a drop 5 or a drop 8,
Mm-hmm.
That's a big jump for kids that just aren't physically mature. Usually the best teams at the 14-year age just have monsters physically that throw it harder, they run faster, and they hit it further, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
And so his dad told the coach that it was the funnest experience for him, just because the guys really got along, even though he was the best player on a team that, from a record standpoint, didn't. But here's the thing too that's important, and for those listening, just about the Rock, a great thing that happens at both the high school campuses, primarily that our kids go to. They're Rockland, Whitney, and we have some kids that are outliers that go to different schools, and we have a handful of kids that go to West Park. But if you talk to Coach Watt, you talk to Coach Jones, the kids that come out of the Rock, regardless of their physical capabilities, are better prepared for high school baseball in terms of attitude, the small things, IQ 101, hey, by the way, if you show up and you're first on the field, you don't just hang out in the dugout with your phone. If the coach is out there with a rake in his hand, you bust out there and you say, what can I do to help? And so all of those things, bunting, just the little things, right? Because these kids aren't hitting 400-foot bombs right out of the gate, and so they better be able to do some of these smaller things. So it's a big compliment to the program when you have your high school coaches say, I can tell the Rock guys because of the way they conduct themselves when they show up for fall baseball. And so there's a lot of pride in that, even though they're not the most talented kids. That doesn't assure that they're going to play a bunch of innings, but at least we've done our job in terms of preparation of what the expectations are. Coach Morton is and all of our staff is really just focused on developing them so that they know what to expect when they get to high school from the 7th and 8th grade teams. It really comes from that position. And so just a shout out to the young man that I referenced that even though he was the best player on a team that record-wise didn't have a ton of team success, was his dad's comment was, it's the most fun he's had playing baseball in a summer than he's ever had. And he had been on some really good teams prior to. So, just anecdotally,
no, I think, I don't know if you'll remember this conversation. I don't mean to put this kid on blast because it's a positive thing, but to me personally, hey, I'm new to the area. I didn't see all the kids at the Little League. I only got here for, 12-year-old year and then all the teenage years. Arn Verma. He is the poster child of the Rock to me personally. Because I remember calling you. I remember it's junior year. We're friends. I'm like, Arn Verma, I don't get it. And you go, what's there not to get? And I'm like, well, because I'm listening to all these historically Rockland superstars like, oh man, Arn, he gets to play, or because he knows he's done the Rock and we didn't do the Rock and this and that. And I'm like, well, we don't do the Rock and Joey's doing just fine, right? Or whatever. And then it took me about, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You meet Arn's dad, right? Who Vishal. I mean, the guy's he's just a cool dude.
Absolutely.
Positive, wants every kid to do well.
Genuinely. Yeah.
Genuinely. Mom's great. She's more quiet, whatever. But like, he was like, damn, dude, me and you are so much more in common than you think, than you even know, right? And I've never gone to dinner with the guy. I've had one drink with him in for 4 years that we were in high school. So it's not like, oh, he's my buddy and I'm like, oh, just shouting him out. But Arn Verma, the player, always showed up, always made contact, always got the bunt down, made some great plays. The thing that sticks out to me the most about Arn Verma, I'm talking baseball, we're doing the team dinner here. He's the first kid to show up. He asks if he can help, and he's a good kid.
Yeah,
and that part has nothing to do with the X's and O's and between the lines.
Absolutely. The Arn's wired right. His family's done an amazing job, obviously, raising a conscientious young man who's just an absolute diligent worker.
I saw him recently at Costco, just before the season started, and he's with his girlfriend. Oh, hey, how you doing? Just smiling and talking. He's telling me, I think he hurt his hand or whatever, but he's now in Hawaii.
Yeah,
at a D2.
Yeah,
and he's going to earn another spot there to play. And he's the poster child. I don't mean to put him on blast, or I'm not trying to roll your eyes all you want. The dude's not 6 feet. He doesn't hit the ball 400, but everything between the ears. From me on the outside looking in, my son doesn't hang out with them. He's not friends. I mean, I'm sure they're friends, but you know what I mean? Like, the dude just did all the things right in this smaller package, and that's got to be attributed somewhere. And he bought in, see the Rock. He went and did it. And this is not like, oh, go to the Rock and they'll solve all your problems, right? A lot of that has to do with Arn and his family and his upbringing and stuff like that. But just, you can go there, grind it out. And oh, by the way, all the credit you earn is with Jones, and then he happened to play for Jones. So guess what? I have news for you. If you play for your high school coach in the summer, or you play for someone that you're going to play for in the future, and you earn time with them, guess what? You're going to have the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
I don't care what you pay or what you didn't pay.
Right.
Like, if you're good, you get the benefit of the doubt. But if you have to tell me you're good and tell me, well, I used to be really good here, and I mean, I'm not doing good now, but I used to be. Doesn't matter, man.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot to throw at you, but I like the Arn Verman story because I think Arn is just a good human. And I'm happy for him.
And I'll add a couple of things to that. First and foremost, Matt Pudge has been my partner, going back to when we connected. I'll try to be brief about the story, but Shane's team, when we were like incoming freshmen, that fall was just at the tip of the sword of COVID. And then in 2020, COVID hit and it shut down baseball all over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we end up in a Underground Railroad event up in Chico. And we had a really good team. And so we play in a championship against a good friend of mine, Kyle Gross, and his program, the West Coast Kings. I didn't know Kyle at the time. So after we finished the game, Kyle approaches me and he's like, "What's the Rock?" And I go, "Oh man, we're just this homegrown little, thing, ragtag, exactly." And so in that conversation, I asked him about what the West Coast Kings is. And so he explained to me that their summer teams were coached by high school coaches at David Jeans at De La Salle, Andy Tarpley at College Park, and at Northgate High School was the third high school, and I apologize to the coach there, but his name escapes me.
Yeah.
And so there was this like, wait, what? He goes, yeah, we practice on their facilities, and they coach our summer teams, and I thought to myself, of course.
Yeah, right. It makes a lot of sense.
Wait, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I came back, and this is how the Rock kind of started at the high school age group. I came back and sat down with Coach Watt and Coach Mueller at the time at Rockland, said, there's this model. So long story short, here we are, fast forward to having high school coaches, coach during the summer. And the benefit of that, you'd think perceptually from the players that would like, yeah, well, Coach Jones can't coach 4 high school teams during the summer. And so there's a unique sort of like, okay, who's there, whatever, that kind of thing and whatnot. But we practice together and all those kind of things. And so that's where the Rock kind of started, from that particular model. And then that first fall, we like Rockland, Whitney, full buy-in. We got our coaches out there. And so we've got a 3-ring circus of JV varsity going on simultaneously with other coaches in there, plus the high school staff. And it's great. Well, then the winter comes, and now we've got 95 kids that we need to figure out what to do for the winter. I just didn't want to end it. So a good friend of mine says, you should talk to Matt Pudge. He has a small facility over here at Smash. So everybody knows Matt Pudge started Smash Baseball, and on the youth side, they've had success for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so Matt is my business partner in the training ground, and so without him,
the guy who also has a day job.
Also has a day job and just got promoted and all kinds of 100%. Stuff. And so, in any case, the training ground would have never come to fruition if it wasn't for the relationship between Fred Saunders, Matt Pudge, Smash, and the Rock. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands how impactful that piece and Matt Pudge have been. And so Matt, Stacy, Easton, Taylor, and Colby. Yeah. Those are extensions of my family, if you will, because of all of that. But so that winter of 2022, we needed a place for these kids to train. So Matt rolled out the red carpet at Smash. It was over there in Roseville. Now, when I say roll out the red carpet, I mean like beat up green turf. It's like a galley kitchen. You know what I mean? It's pretty. So we had 40 guys crammed in there, kind of thing. But that was the beginning of the evolution of the Rock and the partnership with Matt Pudge. And the reason why I bring that up, and it's so important, Joe, is because our Inverma started with Smash. Yeah. There's a lot of great players that came to the Rock because of Matt Pudge and what they learned at Smash. And so we wouldn't be who we are if that hadn't happened, right? So I'm eternally indebted to Matt and the Pudge family for just, displacing his teams so that 95 high school guys could rain down on the facility there 4 days a week.
Which was built for little kids.
It's built for, for youth, and so from that perspective, it all starts there. But Aaron Verma is a product of Smash. The thing about Aaron Verma to this day was I don't have another example of a young man that was as dogged about his own self-promotion. He had really lofty aspirations as a freshman. The first meeting with Jones was like Stanford, Vanderbilt, on and on and on, SEC, Pac-12 kind of thing. And, from a physical standpoint, historically, those schools don't recruit guys that meet that. But he was undaunted by any of that. Right. And almost borderline offended, that, hey, this isn't for you. But
which is what you have to have. You got to have a little bit of an FU.
His belief in himself is the separator. Now, he promoted himself, and he went on the different platforms and field level and whatever it was, and video, reaching out, and really was Hawaii Pacific was in town. New coach who are at Brian Billings. Shout out to Brian, and Coach Bills is amazing. He had a connection at Hawaii Pacific, and he said, you got to come watch this kid play. Because if you just look at the video, you'll say no, but just come watch him play. Right. So they come and watch him play. And what do you think he does? He makes another fan, and he's out there at Hawaii Pacific right now as we speak because of his work ethic. And you want to know something? He's just a damn good baseball player. Right. He's just a very, very good. In addition to being a top-notch character guy, an amazing student,
right.
everything that you want, minus being 6'5", 225 pounds.
Yeah, no, right. Right.
But, and all of his success, we got to be part of it, but a sidecar to being a place where the young man and his family entrusted it with us, but because of his own work ethic. So I'm sorry to go on that.
No, but I think what you're saying is right. It's you're the vehicle, right? He's
Yes.
the driver, but it also takes buy-in. His parents to say, okay, hey, listen, like we love our son. We want him to do good. We think you guys, we trust you and we support you, and we're going to show up and we're going to do these things. And different but the same. The first person I call when I moved to Rockland is Matt Pudge. I do not know Matt Pudge. He's referred to me by my buddy Russ. He says, hey, my buddy Matt runs a sick team, baseball team, whatever. You're looking for Joey, blah, blah. And I'll never forget, Matt Pudge says, hey, man, it sounds like your son is better than our team is in your age group. Because remember, Colby and Dylan and everybody were the year down, even though they were in the same grade. He's like, I think you should do X or Z, X, Y, whatever. And I'm like, hey, man, thanks. I mean, what other program where the guy, he runs the program and you have this kid coming into town that you could get and would probably help your team, and he doesn't do it because he says, hey, listen, I think you're going to be unhappy here with the success or with the level, what your son's doing. It sounds like your son's doing. And I owe Matt a little bit of gratitude for that. Maybe a lot of bit of gratitude, because I would have just signed up because, hey, your recommendation, whatever. And I would have had to learn all the stuff he told me in that, 30-minute conversation after I'd already signed up, because I would have thought, hey, and he did have a good track record here.
Right.
The team was playing good. And so, the whole Matt Pudge and Smash thing, is, I get it. People think, and Joey played La Miranda, Alpha Prime, all these big programs. And it's like, I get it. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I want to play on this big old program, but like, just it's trying to read the room, and that's when we talked about in the beginning, the parents are the worst part of this. It's like, try and find someone that you trust and can give you the real skinny on where your kid belongs. Because those lofty aspirations of Stanford, UCLA, whatever, and he's mildly offended, like, you do need someone to offend you and say, hey, listen, let's shoot for that. Because by the way, if anybody's going to transcend his size and all this other thing, it will most likely be an Arn Verma or a Colby Pudge, another small guy who
shoot
wants
for the stars, land on the moon kind of thing.
Yeah, like, go play, let your play do all the talking. And if you are meant to be somewhere else, they will come and get you. And if you're not, just keep playing, man, and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Had a similar experience with Coach Bill's 20-year collegiate head coach out of Seattle,
right,
and area, and they moved down here. And his son's just, you can see he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, right.
And he walked into the training ground, new to town and whatnot. What's going on here? What are you doing? This and that and the other thing. And so he said, do you mind if we hit? And it was nobody. Absolutely. Appreciate you dropping in, Coach. Go have at it. And watch the young man for a few minutes. And so he was an 8th grader. And similar thing, he just kind of said, hey, we're looking for a team to kind of land on. I go, yeah, I would love to. But the last thing I want to do is have, you have a negative experience. And so there's probably some other programs that are better suited for where your young man is right now. He's pretty put together. Just,
I remember
muscular.
Yeah, I remember
for his
one
size.
of those days when I came in.
So, but in any case, we try to take that, approach to, and part of the thing is a little bit of disappointment sometimes, Joe, is some of the bigger programs where, some of our kids, have, moved on to, and where they've got, 1,000 kids in the program, they've got 4 teams in a grade class, and they got satellite teams that are, here, there, and everywhere. And, there's an element of like, hey man, you're with a good thing right now. You're playing with your high school guys and your high school coach, and, your facilities are right there and whatnot. And so, it's almost a little bit of a bummer at times that those folks that run these massive organizations don't say, hey, man, your deal going on right there in your backyard has everything that you would want. And oh, by the way, if you need me for something, I'm still there. But 100%. They're more than happy to just snipe kids and like without a second thought, and so
it's wild that parents will step on the guy who's helping their kid to go to a guy who will then step on them, and it's almost like I always use a stupid dating analogy, right? But like the girl that maybe leaves the nice guy for the hot guy,
right?
Or the guy that leaves the good girl for the hot girl. And then you realize like they're also always looking for the next best thing. And so trying to find where you just fit in and get in and do that and understand that the journey is a lot about reps and just learning all the right things to do. So that way, if God allows, man, and you show up and you can play at the next level, you have that built in. I think that'll be a good thing.
If you go to those programs and, there's some kids that, let's say, that are underclassmen, you haven't played an inning of varsity baseball in the SFL, but you play on a brand recognized travel team, there are going to be people interested without a doubt.
Right.
But you haven't played an inning of varsity baseball yet, kind of thing. And so there's an element of, if you show out when you get the opportunity in the SFL, right? And our schools are fortunate, they get to go to the Boris and all those kinds of things. And you show out there, then you're building, you're in a conference and in an area that you'll create kinetic energy by your performance, what you're kind of getting at. You know what I mean, Joe?
There's even, now that I think about it, and hopefully Farb doesn't want to shoot me in the leg here, but like fast forward 10 years from now and, my grandson, 10 years, whatever, you know what I'm saying though, fast forward and or redo whatever. And you play on the Rock and you're great. You're great. Well, guess what? When Jupiter comes, the Rock's not going to play in Jupiter. Jupiter's a tournament in Florida where it's the most heavily scouted thing outside of area codes, but it might be even more because it's in Florida, whatever. Now, here's the danger. You can go to Jupiter and shit the bed. But you can also, the other danger, and I've seen this happen too, you can go to Jupiter and do great. Get an offer. But you can't game the system, right? You had one good weekend, somebody sees you. You got to keep getting better. You got to keep playing and stuff. And so,
look at a kid like Logan Sutter. Logan Sutter was at Folsom Lake, and then he went to Purdue. He led, like it was for a long time the season last year. He was a leader in doubles in NCAA. I think he finished like second or third in doubles.
Yep.
Well, he's in South Carolina right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so again,
I met his dad a couple weeks ago, but last season when he was playing at Bentley's.
And when you watch the kid, just physical wise, like, okay, he's put together. He's just mashes. I mean, he destroys baseballs. You know what I mean? And and so, you're absolutely right. I think there's probably as many kids that maybe didn't, go to Jupiter and are on Division I big time
100%.
program campuses that went there. So look, everybody's journey, getting back to look, we're grateful for everybody who wants to opt in. And I certainly don't want to come across as you mentioned Adam Farb, and I got to be honest with you, is that I don't know Adam very well. I've only had a couple of brief introductions with him and interactions, and they've been great and everything. But you cannot deny the success that he provides. It's a unicorn type of program, particularly now they've cast a much wider net, right? And even more exclusive in terms of their talent evaluation and who they bring in. But
his national team is a national team.
It truly is. It's from all over.
Now he has people, it's
But back when they started, it was MetaPrime, and it was all kids right here locally for the most part. And that's where it all evolved. And what a pivot from COVID, because Adam's business was tournaments. Well, in Santa Clara County was the most restrictive county in the state when COVID hit, and he couldn't run tournaments, no venues, et cetera. And said, okay, well, I'm going to take my group of guys, and we're going to go play outside a state where it'll allow it. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And so now it's just this, talk about a juggernaut and this thing that's evolved into something amazing. I have a great deal of respect for Adam and similarly Rob Bruno. I mean, like a 40-year resume and just countless guys, and here we're just, The Rock isn't trying to be that. We're trying to be the best version of our local program that we can be. And again, it gets back to Fred Saunders can't do that without the Joe Lorenzinis, the Matt Jones and the Evos and the Josh Mortons and the John Moscotts and the Matt Pudges of the world. It wouldn't be possible. So there is a great deal of pride, as a man. I think that if they thought that Fred Saunders was profit taking or doing it for the wrong reasons, I would get exposed. They'd recognize that right away and wouldn't want to be part of what we're doing. So
no, and it's a good point. I mean, it's a good thing. It's good for more people than it's not, and it's not for everybody. But nothing is for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And hey, give it a try, whatever. It's just, and it's not a Rock specific thing. It's just as parents, try to stop chasing the next best thing. I know some parents are going to hear me say that and think, really, dude, blah, blah, blah. Right. But hey, I'm speaking from experience, not trying to say I'm better than. I mean, I chase the better thing. And I think what you guys are doing is great. And by the way, this is not a paid advertisement. I'm not, there's nothing, like I said to Matt, right? My kid doesn't play for anymore. I'm speaking highly of you because I want to, you know what I'm saying? And I believe in it. And I believe in it. It's the same goes for you and for everything you guys are doing. And so one last thing, there is a new summer league, right?
Yeah, well, it's not a new summer league.
Sorry, new summer league team.
Yes, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment here.
Yes, you are.
A little bit, yeah. Kyle Gross, that I mentioned before, runs the West Coast Kings. And so he's moved away from the high school piece and has been, doing collegiate league baseball for years. And his West Coast Kings team that Shane played for last year, they're part of the newly formed Pacific Empire League, which is the Lincoln Potters, the West Coast Kings, Healdsburg Prune Packers.
So this is when you graduate high school and you're going to go to college, you can play in there. But also when you're in college and you're home for the summer or you're not playing in the summer between college seasons.
Yeah, 100%. So after, the JUCO season ends in California on Memorial Day is the championship game. So as soon as that's over, well, the NCAA Division I, playoffs and regionals and super regionals are still going on. But, historically, the teams in the Pacific Empire League attract a lot of talent and coaches want to send their players out, and so so the Bay Area Collegiate League, Kyle Gross is on the board of the Pacific Empire League.
Okay.
And so the Bay Area Collegiate League, Kyle's run for several years. And the great thing about being in the Bay Area Collegiate League is that your non-league schedule is exclusively against Pacific Empire League teams.
So there are two different leagues.
There's two different leagues, correct?
Bay Area College League, Pacific Empire League.
Correct.
Pacific Empire League is that one where you mentioned all those teams that I've heard before.
Right.
Bay Area College League will be a new, or
so
teams.
In full transparency, I would say it's a little bit of a lesser league, if you will, the minor leagues of a Pacific Empire League, but still a lot of really, really good players. And so some high school graduates that are going to go on to college and some first and second year college guys that are local, cool. kind of thing. And so anyway, that's this will be the sort of the first official announcement of the South Placer Stonecutters.
I love it. I love the name, Stonecutters. I think it's cool.
Yeah, thank you. We spent a little bit of time with some Chat GPT help. Obviously, those of you that are South Placer, it's a lot of quarry and mining and rocks and
Rockland,
Granite Bay and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's a play on all of that. And so we're really excited about that. And a lot of our local JUCO guys are already very interested. We'll have our schedule sort of published in December, which will be our league schedule and our non-league schedule games against those teams that I mentioned. So,
because for guys biting at the bit that maybe didn't get an opportunity to play as much, right? I mean, they're like, "Damn, dude, just give me some live Give me some in-game at bats and reps.
100%. And, some of the local junior colleges have done, a small version of summer ball, that didn't really grab, and take hold. And so it was a little bit of a mishmash, but, we'll be in a league. We'll have a schedule that's going to be 35 to 40 games in about 10 weeks. So it's going to be a lot of baseball. And a lot of very competitive baseball. So we're really proud of kicking that off. And
so if a kid is going to be in that element, how would they reach out to join that team?
That's a great point. We're still in the logistics, part of it, but we're definitely in the league. And so I guess
you got all of the spring to figure this out.
Correct.
But you're going to probably make the team during the JUCO
during
season.
Spring, yes. Yeah. We'll be as soon as we have the schedule in December, we'll start reaching out to players and garner commitments. All of the local coaches that are around. If you have a young man that's going to be a college player and someone that's going to be an impact player maybe early on, first year, and they're going to a number of junior colleges, you can reach out to me. The best way to do that would probably be via phone. And so
I can put your number.
Yeah, you can maybe do a little pop up or something of that kind of thing. But or talk to your junior college coach. And so I know the conversations at our local JCs at Folsom and Sierra College and ARC, are already kind of being had. Yeah, so they're planting seeds out there, and so we'll make some public announcements on social around December, and then we'll start soliciting roster, contracts and invites around that time.
That's awesome. I think the whole league is going to get better. I've seen dealing with it, like Cape Cod League was always like this top thing. And so now they're saying like some coaches don't want to send their kids to the Cape because they're getting poached by the bigger schools. And so they're sending them to California where then, you can't really be in one place at one time. So I wonder how that trickle-down effect will work for everybody,
Yeah, I think we're going to get some, honestly, some really good players. And with, the connections of Kyle Gross and the other coaches that kind of are, we had a board meeting, so to speak, of the teams on a Zoom call. And we all kind of, this gentleman's agreement that, if there's a kid regionally that that's from Roseville, right? But he played for your team out of let's say Santa Rosa, right? Okay, it's probably better suited. He's going to be home for the summer for him to be with our organization,
right, somewhere close.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have a lot of interest once we start making that push. And the one thing that made me decide to do it, because there's some other, organizations that kind of have, collegiate level
attachments or whatever.
Right. And, but they're not in a league. And so one of the biggest hooks was for me that the Pacific Empire League, predominantly the non-league schedule, will be against Bay Area Collegiate League teams. So there's a bake-in, sort of symbiosis there, if you will, because those Humboldt Crabs are looking for fill-in games to play. And so taking a trip up to Humboldt with a group of kids, and going and competing against some of the best. And
you're just extending the game again.
Yeah, exactly. So we're really excited about that, Joe. Thank you so much for bringing it up and promoting it. I appreciate it very much.
Cool. I think we've touched on more things than we thought, but long overdue, my friend.
No, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, dude.